What's up, guys? Welcome to NMDT. Canes all day. If you're rocking with you, do you know what to do? Hit that like and subscribe button so you never miss out on the video. I'm in a good mood. You're in a good mood if you're watching this video because you just watched our Miami Hurricanes dominate the Duke Blue Devils. I mean, it really wasn't even a game. Offensively, defensively, it was a massacre. So we're gonna go ahead and get Chris on. And we're going to talk about what we think about the game, the different players that made a big impact. We're going to have a good, interesting conversation. Shout out to my guy, Long Live the King. Big time win today. Because I think this win said a lot about, all those people who said, Manny, 3 weeks off, how the team would be. We had several players out. And we beat a bad team, but we beat them down. We didn't just win, we beat them down. And I think that's the biggest thing about tonight and why we should be excited was that everybody looked good, everybody looked healthy, and we didn't have a major injury. Chris, how you living? How you feeling, my brother?
Hey, Grant, how are you, man? Doing great.
All right, let me get your volume up real quick. Go ahead and say something. Make sure your volume's good, Chris.
How's that sound? Grant?
That sounds good, my man. That sounds good. So, shutout, man. First shutout since 2001. What do you think about the game, man?
That was exactly what I was hoping to see. It was exactly what I was hoping to see in this game. I wasn't sure I was going to get it because of the nature of the way we played some of these opponents that were clearly lesser than us the course of this year so far. But, it's nice to see this team not playing down the competition because that's a almost 2-decade-long problem for this program, playing down the teams that were way better than physically or in terms of talent. So nice to go out there and just from the beginning, setting a tone on the defensive side of the ball, that first turnover, it was kind of like oh man, now we're going to give up an easy, cheap touchdown here. Then they're going to get ahead and we're going to battle back and do this whole thing. But the defense right away zipped it up, 3 and out, pushed them back, turned the ball over 107 times today. So it was beautiful to see.
It was good to see, man. Like you said, man, it was good. We come out the game, there's actually a fumble. We actually fumble the ball, and we don't know. I'm starting to, I start to think, okay, are we going to go into a slow where we start off a little bit slow? And offensively, we did, but defensively, I felt like, man, we got off the bus hitting hard. One player that I thought just dominated the game was Jalen Phillips. What are your thoughts on what he did tonight?
Well, we've talked about Jalen Phillips quite a bit over the course of this year, Grant. I seem to remember some things that I said early on in the year that seemed kind of crazy to go back and pull some of that audio. But, Jalen Phillips was awesome. He was awesome. And anyone that's listening, we put up a video on the Twitter account. It was some of just a handful, 5 of the plays he made tonight. There's no way you could fit as many plays as he made in the 220 that Twitter allows, but he was all over the field. He was wreaking havoc. He was stunting inside. He was, they've been turning him loose over the past couple of weeks on that defense, and he started off as a consistent player and doing the dirty work and all that. But I think they realized they need to get to the quarterback more often. And once they let him loose and let him get after it and let him say, hey, you don't have to hold the edge every single time, and he's been a phenomenal player, and I can't wait to see. I would love to see him back next year, but my gut says this is going to be a one and done as a Cane in terms of actually playing the game in Miami because he is looking like a first-round pick for sure.
And I agree, man. He's playing off the change, and I think what makes his story so good, and they did a good job on the ACC network talking about it, but and this is why I have my reservations, right? I gotta see it to believe it type of guy. Now I knew, Jalen Phillips when he came out of high school, he was the #1 recruit, and I saw him do some flashes at UCLA, so I was happy that we got him. But I said, listen, man, we're expecting this kid who stopped playing football because of multiple injuries, a kid who's gonna have to take off a year, a kid who's coming in looking scrawny. I was like, it's no doubt in my mind that he would be good, but I didn't think he would be this dominant. I didn't think it. I thought towards the end of the year, like I thought starting this game, we would start to see Jalen Phillips rev up, but he started from day one. And I think that's what really shocked me. I mean, we gotta realize that this kid retired from playing football because of the injuries. So let's just play some imaginary, because look, let's be honest. We're gonna talk about this Duke game, but we blew them out. We destroyed them, right? We're gonna talk about it. But what would this defensive line look like if you added a Gregory Rousseau?
Well, I think that you'd see Phillips and Rousseau on the field almost the whole game, and I know that you see it now too with Roche. Like, he plays most of the snaps out there. In the past, we rotated a lot more than we've been doing this year. Even on the interior, where like that was always a constant flow of rotation. It's really been 3 and then 4 guys when Hunt stepped up, and then when Hunt really did and took the starting job, he stayed out there a lot of the time with Nesta. But I feel like you'd see those 3 guys out there, getting a lot of snaps together because of what Rousseau is able to do on the interior. And I know that's something else that we talked about where, maybe you slide Rousseau inside, you have Phillips outside and all that, but you could do so much with those 2 playing next to each other. And on the other side, you just have Nesta next to Roche. Like, you could move Phillips inside like we saw some today, and then Rousseau outside. And you could line Phillips way out and move Rousseau in more of like where a 3-4 defensive end, like a 5 tech would be. Like, you could do so much if you had those 2 players, guys that are like high level, like future draft picks. That it's like I've forgotten the versatility that a defense can create or can show when you have like super elite playmakers. It's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about this next recruiting class, because you have these dudes who can do so many different things in that front 7 especially. So, I couldn't even imagine how good it would be, because as it stands right now, without our best defensive player from last year, a top 5 draft pick, we still look dominant at times on the defensive line. So I can only imagine if you added that kid back in.
And that's crazy when you say that, and I'm the type where I look at myself as a realistic type of fan, and I call it like I see him. And I was like, how do we take Gregory Rousseau off of this defensive line and still be dominant? And I think, you added Quincy Roche, who we're seeing a lot of flash plays from Jalen Phillips. And I think a lot of our eyes are going to him. I find myself now, when we're on defense, just seeing, okay, I'm gonna focus in on Jalen Phillips. But we can't forget about what Nesta's doing and what Quincy Roche's doing on that defensive line as well, because I think they're doing a great job too. I saw you posted about the big hit about with Bradley Jennings Jr. He fills the gap, he comes in and he lays the wood. What did you think about our linebacker play tonight?
I've been as critical of the linebackers throughout the course of the year as anybody, and because I've constantly seen failures at that level causing us problems, giving up these big plays or turning what should be 4-yard gains into 12-yard gains, and I put a lot of that blame on the second level defenders outside of Gill, who's been awesome, but those interior linebackers have caused a lot of issues for us. But Bradley Jennings had a good game today. He was more aggressive. It was that one big play, because I was so stunned. I gotta repost this right now, because I can't believe I just saw like one of our interior linebackers actually come forward and attack. But yeah, Jennings was good. He was in on a lot of plays. He played aggressive. He didn't seem to hold back like he has in the past at times. Not having McLeod on the field because of he was on the inactive list. I'm not saying it made us better necessarily as a team, but I think it forced us to do things that we haven't done in the past, like putting Jennings and Flag next to each other, when usually it's Jennings with McLeod. So you see maybe some limitations caused by his partner, and then Flag with Brooks, where Brooks doesn't have the experience that a guy like Jennings does in terms of being around the program and being around the Diaz defense for so long. So I think those two guys together actually seem to play well and work off each other, where Jennings fed off of Flag's intensity. And then I think also Jennings kind of trusted his instincts more, because that's really what makes Flag so good in his limited time. But we've seen him so far as a Cane. They were a lot better. They were a lot better. And I think also Smith and Frierson at striker, you saw those guys get a lot of time on the field at the same time, which is something that we've all been looking for, to get more speed out there. And they both delivered in a big way again.
All right, guys, we got Chris on the line from Cane's Legacy. You can find Chris on Twitter. You see it right there on your screen at Cane's Legacy. Also on Cane's Insight, he does a lot of work with them. Make sure you check out my guys' content. Let's be honest here, Chris, right? If I asked you, and if anybody asked me, coming into this game, if I said, hey, we're going to shut out Duke, we're going to blow them out, I would have said, hold your horses, right? I would have said, hold your horses. So, one, were you shocked by the performance? Let's be specific. Were you shocked about the performance defensively? And give me something that shocked you tonight about how the defense.
I think I would be shocked at the fact that they actually went through and did what they had to do in terms of like shutting down all facets of the game, because I think that we've given up plays that we shouldn't have to quarterbacks who are actually worse than Chase Bryce. A couple guys we played where it's like Bailey Hockman, who's not very good, but you make him look like a star for half of that game, So we've given up some plays in there that, even watching Duke against some other teams, like I watched their game against Georgia Tech, and I said to myself, watching a couple of the mistakes that Georgia Tech did, I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna give that play up. Like, we're gonna give that play up. Seeing linebackers miss an assignment, oh yeah, we're gonna give that play up. And then we came out here and we shut all those plays down. Like, we did not give them an inch. And in terms of like shocking, like I can't think of a better tackling performance that I have seen from a Miami team in like literally decades. Like literally since I was a little kid watching the Canes play. Like, we were all over the ball. We swarmed to it when we needed to. We had defensive backs making plays. Like, the Jennings play was great. And then a little bit later on, Gervin Hall, like tomorrow, we're going to definitely post a clip of that in the morning. Gervin Hall made this beautiful open field tackle where the guy he came up on the slot guy caught the pass like a little quick screen, and it was like one-on-one, and that's that guy's job. Make a move on the safety and then the open space. And Gervin Hall, he didn't hesitate. He didn't stop his feet. He went right at him and threw him. And like, you watch that, you're like, that's exactly what we've been missing from Hall, from our defensive backs as a whole. Bubba looked like he was his old self again, making plays and running the alley like he had done in the first couple of games. It was just, I was most surprised by the fact that it all came together so like expertly in a way that we haven't seen happen in quite a while. Like, probably since like that 2017 Notre Dame game, I don't think I've seen the defense so together and consistent throughout the course of 60 minutes.
Definitely a dominant defensive performance. But we were missing one guy. I mean, the team was missing several guys. But one guy in particular, Al Blades, right? There was no Al Blades.
Yeah.
And that was announced before that one was announced first, and then the big announcement of like the list of 15 players that came out was announced after that. What are your thoughts on Al Blades missing the game, and do you think it was C-19 related? Have you heard anything, and what are your thoughts? I'll just say there's rumors out there that he may not be with the program, or he may be upset. Those are just rumors. But I just wanted to ask your opinion. No Al Blades tonight.
Yeah, it was strange. And when it first started to come out earlier that he was going to miss the game, it was concerning because of, the situation. And there's been all that kind of little chatter about Al since Couch took his job. Like, you never know exactly what's in these guys' heads, especially someone like Al, who's, he's kind of out there with his personality, and he's, and when he signed, he did the whole thing with Florida State where he went on their field and did through the U up. So, he was kind of in for big splashy moves. But he's all Cane, like, in my mind. So I was a little bit concerned about what exactly that meant. He posted some stuff after the game, making fun of Duke. So that's always a good sign. It's not like there's any kind of like issues between he and the team or he and his teammates. So that's a good sign. I'm just hoping that it was COVID. I mean, I'm not hope that he has COVID or anything, but like I hope that it was just like a contact tracing thing where maybe someone he was in a room with had it, so he had to stay back, and wasn't able to go through the whole process of going to the game as a safety precaution. Because I would hate to lose a guy like that, who's been started so many games, have been so consistent. Even if Couch is starting, Blades plays a lot. He'll play a lot of snaps. So we need him for sure, especially at a position that isn't very deep. And we've talked about our corner issues for a while. So it was great it's great to see Couch and Ivy. I mean, Ivy didn't even nobody even heard from Ivy in this game, which is, as far as playing quarterback, is the greatest thing I could imagine. Like, they didn't even go near Ivy, which is something I really love to see from a guy that we had some great concerns about early in the year. So hopefully Al is just going to be back with us next week, and we can keep rolling with him and that top three of corners next year, who should be at that point one of the most experienced and consistent groups probably in the ACC.
Right. And he, like you said, he did post a video making fun of Duke. As I said, guys, these are all just rumors, so don't just go crazy with it. I don't see Al Blaze as that type. First of all, I mean, the name Al Blaze at Miami, I mean, I just, to me, I think he would, if he was going to leave the program, I think he would wait to the end of the season. The only thing that worried me or that was confusing was they announced Al Blaze won't be going, and then everybody else was announced right before the game. So that's why that was weird. And I'll just keep my eye on it. Like we always do. But the defense and the secondary played well. What do you think about this? Am I wrong for saying this? The one thing about our DBs is I wish they made more plays on the ball. So Marcus Clark, the ball is thrown over the receiver's hands, and he's able to reach back, get a nice interception. Right? Those are the plays that I wish that our starters would be making. There's times where our DBs are there and they either just make the tackle or they knock it down. But I think they're at the point now where we need plays to be made sometimes. So let me know, am I tripping? Am I just thinking too much into it? Or do you think we, in our secondary, we're lacking the play on the ball type of mentality?
No, I think we are. And I think that's something that, Ivy and Blades especially have shown that inability to really get their head around and make plays on the ball and do that last step. They do a lot of things well in terms of playing the position. I feel like, especially Ivy, I think he does a lot of things really, really well. And his body is great for the position, and he does all these things. But that last step of, turning and actually looking for the ball and making a play on it, which is in a lot of cases the most important thing or the most noticeable thing, he has trouble with. There's probably a couple of reasons for that. I think number one is it's a confidence thing. To turn, as they're taught to, follow the receiver, play the hands, do all of that, which is, pretty common across the country. But that last step, what makes the guy a really good, consistent, elite corner, is to trust himself enough, his positioning enough, to get his eyes off the receiver, put him up in the air to find the ball and make a play, right? So if the guy doesn't have the confidence in his own abilities to stay with the guy, or he's afraid that I'm going to lose him if I turn and his ball isn't in the air, then he's not going to turn. He's just going to try to play the hands, and quite often that leads to issues. That's like a 50-50 proposition at that point. But then you have Marcus Clark, who has a history of playing wide receiver more than the other guys do, where they're more so tried and true cornerbacks. Marcus Clark played receiver in high school, so already he's got more of that mentality with how to make a play on the ball, and maybe he understands where the ball would be at a given time, or understands the routes the receivers are running. So he can be a little bit more confident because he knows, all right, if the ball's going to be out, or it's going to be here, or it's going to be about now, or he's timing it out in his head like a receiver would do for his routes, or he's watching the steps, things like that a corner by a full life cornerback may not be able to do. So Clark has that. Malik Curtis, who's coming in next year, has that. That could be really interesting for us, because I think having a guy with ball skills and elite physical traits like Clark, the sky's the limit with potential.
I like that. I agree, man. Shout out to everybody up in the chat. Mr. Wright, Macho Man, Big Kane, Jordan Jersey, Long Live the King. Swarth31, hey, I appreciate y'all kicking it with us tonight. Hit that like button. They had 3 interceptions tonight. We only had 1 interception. We had a ton of forced fumbles and fumble recoveries, but we only had 1 interception tonight. That was by Marcus Clark. Defense gets a shutout, first time since 2001. Let me tell you this, right? Again, let me know if I'm tripping or not, right? When I look at the offensive side of the ball, I think you can give the MVP to a lot of different people, right? But
right.
I would give my MVP to Navon Donaldson, because I don't know if it was him. I don't know if it was Duke talent level. All I know is we inserted Navon Donaldson in this week, and the offensive line played wonderful tonight. There's been times weekly I've watched this team, this offensive line, and I've said 2, 3, 4, 5 times during the game, what the hell is this player doing? Tonight, especially on the passing side, I still would like to see more aggression on the rushing side. But man, this offensive line looked good tonight. First, let's talk about Navon Donaldson, and then let me know who your MVP on the offensive side.
I respect very much that decision to go with Navon with how he, and you saw right away, because he didn't start the game. So you saw when he came out there, the difference, like right away. They started running behind him, and he was out there mauling people like young Navon used to, or like Central Navon used to, where, he would just go out there and immediately, like, first off, you see him and you're like, okay, like this guy's legit, right? Because of just the sheer physical size. Like, you knew it wasn't Ja'Kai Clark out there, who physically really profiles more as a center anyway, with his size. So you see Navon and you're like, okay, this guy's legit. And when he's really at his best and he's got like his conditioning under control, he is able to set a tone on the defense, or like on a defender, like few other guys that we've had in recent memory. And you saw that, like, he was turning people, he was moving bodies, he was pancaking and flatlining people, he was blocking one dude into other dudes. Like, he was doing things that, we don't have anybody else that can do. So once you saw him out there setting that kind of tone, I think the whole offensive line picked up, because, like, imagine me and Zion Nelson, who last year struggled mightily. This year has been much better. But now he's got Ja'Kai Clark next to him, who has been up and down at best, and he's always got to worry about the inside, because he's, as good as Nelson has been, like, there's a concern that if the guy next to him isn't playing it to his potential, then he's got to help him out there too. That's the left tackle's job. But then to have an experienced guy like Navon, who's just dominating for the course of a game, it makes Zion's life a lot easier. It makes Gainer's life a lot easier. It makes Derek King's life a lot easier. It makes everybody's life easier. So for sure, he set the tone in a way that we haven't seen in a while. I'm still going with Derek King, because, like, that's the straw. Like, he stirs the whole drink of the entire football team, I think. And you saw him on the sideline. Like, the most telling thing for me, when after they scored a touchdown, he'd come over to the sideline, and it would be the same thing every time. It wasn't him, like, jumping around, screaming, being all excited. It would be go to the bench, talk to Lashley, talk to his line, go back, talk to Lashley after every touchdown. They were up, like, when I think he came out when it was 42, but they were up 42-0, and he still did the same exact thing, like, expecting to go back in for the next drive. Here, we're going to do this. What if we do that? Like, that's the kind of stuff that great teams have. You have quarterbacks that lead for the entirety of the time that they're out there on the field, which is a carryover from leading the entire time they're off the field. You know what I mean? And that's what King is. So I go him, but I like the Navon pick too, because he deserves just as much credit.
And to piggyback off what you said about our guy De'Aaron King here, and that's why I said I like De'Aaron King, is because he means business. When we're up, he means business. When we're blowing, like we blew FSU out, he means business. When we're down by 2 scores, he means business. It's even kill. But did you hear what the announcer said after the young freshman Jalen Knighton had the fumble? Who was the first person over there to go holler at him and say, hey, bro, we got this? They said it was De'Aaron King. And I honestly think if King can come back, it would be great. I hope he does. But I have to think the quarterbacks in the room right now has to be learning from De'Aaron King how serious he takes the game and things like that. I've been ready for a couple weeks. I know King hasn't, or we haven't played the last 3 weeks, but I'm still on the King for Heisman train. I don't think he's going to win it. I think that's Mac Jones for Alabama, but I think he should be a finalist. What do you say to that? Are you ready to jump on? Because let me tell you why. I'll tell you why. He has the stats when you look at him. He has the story. He has the story in, what he's been through with his father. They said that he had C19 these past couple weeks. He bounced back. And then he has the difference maker factor. He just came over here to Miami and took a team that only won 6 games to one of the best offensives in the ACC. Tell me why he shouldn't be invited to New York or to the Zoom call. Tell me.
I think, that's the thing. When you said he has the stats, he has all this stuff, and there's the COVID connection too that he had and battled through. And he really has like the perfect story for someone to go. Like you could imagine, and his mom, beating cancer, and like so many things that go into it. And a kid who, watching the national championship game, decided that he wanted to, better his situation. He didn't want to be complacent and just play another year. He wanted to play at the absolute highest level. Like, how is that not like the perfect prototype for what you want people to see? Like he wanted to push himself as best as possible. So I think he's a great story. I think he's a great representative of college football. I would say that it's a no-brainer to invite him, and I think he's lucky that the team and the defense now especially is starting to click, because I think we would have to be undefeated besides Clemson, undefeated, like go win out the rest of the season after Clemson to get in that shot, because I don't think they would put it if we had 3-4 losses. But where we are now, I would see him getting an invitation as one of the top 5 guys for sure. And especially that's a Zoom call. It's not like they're paying all kinds of money to fly him out to New York. So I don't think it's that big of a deal to send out 1 or 2 more links on the Zoom call. So I think he deserves it for sure.
This Miami Hurricanes team is peaking at the right time, Chris. And I'm gonna beat the De'Aaron King for Heisman train. I'm gonna beat that. This offense tonight, Brevin Jordan, man, came out. We designed a couple plays for him. We used his versatility. Talk about what he means to this offense, because if you look back, I know the receivers were struggling. I know the offensive line was struggling, but people forget probably the second best player on our team has been out most of the season in Brevin Jordan. Kind of talk about what you saw in him tonight.
Yeah, I think it's finally like the opportunity that, it looked like they were really making a plan or following through with a plan that they had made to get him the ball as consistently as they could, because he's a playmaker. You put him out there in a situation, and you say like, hey, we're gonna feed you the ball in these spots. He's the kind of guy that will make it work, regardless of what he has in front of him. And I think on the touchdown especially, we saw something that fans have kind of been clamoring for all year, with utilizing both Mallory and Brevin out there together. Because when they ran that route, they were lined up right next to each other on the end of the line. And like, what do you do if you're a safety? Those 2 guys coming at you, and Mallory took it outside, and Brevin just kind of carried up the seam and followed along in the interior, and a perfect throw, like an absolute dime of a throw by King, right past the linebacker in there. And then once you get Jordan in open space, that's a humongous fast person that you're trying to tackle, and he carried his way into the end zone. So, I think that they finally realized that without I know they've been better, but without super great consistency from the receiving core, although Harley obviously had another huge touchdown today, you have to get both of those guys on the field because they're going to make the receivers better. Just like as the receivers like Harley start to step up, they're going to let the tight ends get more space because they can't keep everything down to try to stop those big guys. So I think they've been trying to get him the ball more, and I think you see that as his potential, is getting more and more close to being reality as we see it every week.
It's something. Those two healthy, they're a problem. They're a problem, and in a weird way, Miami getting that 3-week break, getting a tune up with Duke. You add Navon Donaldson to the O-line. You add a healthy Brevin Jordan. If the C19 cases, we can get that and get a full roster, I think this is a dangerous team. We got UNC and we got the bowl game. Now, Chris, I want you to be 100 with me because I know some people will say this is a crazy question, and some people will say it's a good question, and I'll kind of look at different views. But let me ask you this. Notre Dame will take on Clemson in the ACC championship. Are you happy that Miami did not make the ACC championship and don't have to face either one of those teams? Or
no,
are you relieved?
Yeah. No, I think that any chance a young team, and we have these senior guys and these guys that are, could go, and King could go, and Phillips could go. I get that. But like a team like we need to go in as many big games as possible to remember and to figure out what it's like to be in those games so we can eventually win those games. Like, I'm not of the mindset where you avoid them because you want it to look better when you didn't, because you didn't have to play. And some people are like, well, if we play Florida's going to put up 70 on us and we're going to blah, blah, and we're going to lose recruits. Like, that's nonsense. That's nonsense to me. You have to play in those games. Like, you get beat in those games, sure. It's like maybe 70, 80% of the time you get beat in those games if you're not quite ready to step up to that level. Yeah, but, when you play in those games, you start to see it. You realize, like, as things start to go right, these are the things that we have to do. Some teams go play in those games and they get killed by the great Clemsons and the Bamas and all those squads, and they don't learn a thing about it. But I think this team would be able to learn a thing because they have young guys who are hungry to get the team back to that level. So I would be thrilled with the opportunity to play against Notre Dame. It's not going to happen, but I would have been thrilled at it. I'm thrilled with the idea of playing Florida in the Orange Bowl. Yeah, will they score points? They will score points for sure. But I also know their defense is terrible, so we will score points too. Will we score more points than them? I don't know. But I know that a 45-34 loss to Florida in the Orange Bowl does not hurt us with recruiting. I think it helps us with recruiting because I think a lot of those guys, especially people on the defensive side, will say, hey, the offense is legit. I know that I want to be a part of that thing that fixes the defense, and then we roll. We're good. Then we're going to roll. Next time we play them, we beat them. So I would be very excited about the opportunity because I think, and this is going back to, every great Canes team, like in history, has always like had those games where it's like, oh, this is they're almost there. And then all of a sudden they kick the door in game, like 1979 Penn State. They're almost there. Like freshman Jim Kelly, they're almost there. They won the game. And then 2 years later, they kicked the door in, So things like that where you have to give these young guys an opportunity to play because eventually they're going to be the ones that win these games.
I agree 100% because I just with all the points you said, one, that's just the type of person I am. I think to be the big dog, you gotta go and face the big dog. You can't run, and we can't say, well, next year we can go up against them. No, we gotta go at them right now, and that way, piggybacking off what you said, if a Jalen Knighton, if a Don Chaney, if they go into that battle, win or lose, they're going to learn from playing under those bright lights. Right? Now, Clemson,
For sure.
I would be foolish to get on this mic and rile everybody up and say, we would beat Clemson. But I honestly believe this. If we got De'Aaron King in a full roster, I like us versus Clemson. I like us versus Florida. I'm not saying we would. I'm not saying we're going to beat them. I'm not saying that I would go put my money on it. I'm just saying I think when you have a player as good as De'Aaron King, you never know what can happen when you kick that ball off. And who knows if we would have made it back and went up against Clemson, or if we went up against Notre Dame. I think when we go up against Notre Dame sees that and they don't know what to do. But I do think, King is the type where I think he's gotten better throughout the season, and I think he either wins or he learns. So I asked that question because of the points you said. Some people would say, I'm glad we didn't go up against Clemson because it would have killed momentum. We would get blown out. It would make us look bad. It would hurt recruiting. But if we got the boys who I think we got, if we got the goons that I think that we got in Leonard Taylor, James Williams, Cam Kitchens, Romello, if we got those goons like I think we got, and we did lose those big games, I know they'd be sitting back saying, okay, wait till I get there. Wait till I get there. And then if we win, it's even better. New Year's 6, it's very likely. I think we're going to end up playing Texas A&M and Florida, and we can know where we stack up, especially going up against Alabama the beginning of next year. But that's a long ways away. Let's talk about next week. What do you think about North Carolina? This is an early look, because let me let everybody know right off the bat. This is an early look at North Carolina, but we don't know who's going to play for North Carolina. We don't know who's going to play for Miami. Hell, we don't even know if the game will be played because that is the atmosphere we're in 2020. But what do you think about the North Carolina game? Just a quick, what worries you? What excites you? What do you think about it coming up?
Well, I think it's a necessary game for where we are right now. I think I'm glad we play them now. I'm glad we play them after what we did in the Duke game, setting such a tone defensively, because that's what we have to do against a potent offense. Like it's easy to do it against Duke, the 90-something ranked offensive line in the country, and it's easy to set a tone there, but it's not impossible to carry that same exact momentum over to North Carolina. We just have to keep doing what we were doing in this game effectively, and that's, getting pressure on the quarterback, forcing bad decisions. Hal is not going to make as many unforced errors as Bryce would, but Bryce was forced into a lot of bad mistakes. We turned the ball over more often than, we forced them to turn the ball over more than they just gave it away, because we were getting big hits and getting our hands in and, having that second guy into the pile, really deliver a shot on the ball. We were doing things to force mistakes, force errors. I think if you can do that against North Carolina, I think you can beat them without much trouble. That being said, because they've been beaten by teams that have done that to them. That being said, they're also a team who will take advantage of our mistakes a lot better than Duke ever could. So we have to be mindful of that. And I'm not foolish enough to think that Sam Howell's going to get shut down for an entire game, especially such a big game, because he really seems to have that kind of Baker Mayfield, when the biggest lights are on him, he gets that chip on his shoulder and he really wants to go out there and show out. So I know he'll be ready to rock and roll, even without, crowd and all that kind of stuff. But I'm excited for the game. I think it's a good litmus test for us. And, if we really are pissed that we didn't get the opportunity to go in the ACC title game, then we can't go out there and lose. Then you might as well just be like a little kid crying at the toy store because you can't get another Pokemon card, because it's a waste of time. We have to go out there pissed off to be great, and then show everybody this is why we should have. This is what we would have done in the ACC title game, and blow North Carolina out or beat them by a couple touchdowns, to say yes, we do belong, and we will feel that into the offseason. So that's the only way we're going to prove to people that they did make a mistake in changing the rules and allowing those guys to get in before we ever had a shot.
All right, man. All right, guys. We got Chris from Kane's Legacy. You see his Twitter name on the screen. Make sure you check my guy out on Twitter. Also, check out Kane's Insight. He does have articles and other things like that. Make sure you check out my guy. We saw Nkosi tonight. What'd you think?
He was himself. He was Nkosi. He made mistakes that Kosi does, and he did some things that were good, like the throw to Cheney was solid. He did some things that were okay. I don't think he's going to be. I wish Van Dyke was able to play. That's the easiest thing I could say. I wish I could have seen Van Dyke get some snaps in and throw the ball a little bit, because that's really my number one concern as far as the quarterback position headed into next year. Because I'm not sure that Kosi is going to be the guy, but he is what he is, I think, at this point. And if King were to get hurt, I think that decision about who would take the reins would be a very tough one for Manny Diaz. So let's just hope that we don't have to deal with that. But
I think come on, man. I think it's Nkosi. If anything was to happen to King, which King did come down with the C19, he's back healthy now. Obviously, he played tonight, played great. You got to go with Nkosi, right? Experience. He's been there before. Brought us back against Florida State. I mean, you want to throw a true freshman out there?
I think long-term, short-term, right? Like I don't know if Nkosi has. This,
well, I'm saying. Okay, let me give you a scenario, Chris. Let me give you a scenario. For some reason, knock on wood. I heard you knocking on wood. I'm gonna knock on wood. If De'Aaron King couldn't play, who would our quarterback be these last couple games of this season? Who are you throwing in?
If he were out for it was announced right now, he were out for the rest of the season, I would expect Nkosi to start against North Carolina, and I would expect the hook to be pretty quick, and not like he throws an interception, he gets pulled. If he has like a first half against Carolina where he throws 2 interceptions, then I would say Van Dyke has an opportunity to come in later in the game. And I would say if he has an overall bad game against North Carolina, then I could see Van Dyke get the start in the last game of the year, and then heading into the bowl game, I think. And then from that point, you make a decision. You do one of those we'll determine it, in the week of practice or whatever. And then you make a late decision there. If you don't want to put Van Dyke in against Florida, then the chances that you're going to be that much more confident putting him in against Alabama are small. So I would rather see just Van Dyke go out there and see what we have in the kid, especially because if King goes, then you have to make a lot of decisions. Like I would expect if King leaves us try to find a grad transfer quarterback to come in, so it isn't just Nkosi versus Van Dyke. I would like to have more of a more elaborate competition, because even if we get Garcia, I don't think he would be involved in that. I would expect a grad transfer to come in, so I'd really want to know what Van Dyke is to know how much he's going to go into that competition with a shot.
I like Kosi, and I think I think he does have talent, and I've told people this. I think when you go into next year, if he stays at the school, you're going to look at a veteran guy who's been through a quarterback battle, who's definitely matured, who now he's going to have his back-to-back offensive coordinator in the system. I think that's something you can look talented. Coming into this game, I wanted to see Tyler Van Dyke because I just want to see what he looks like under center. We got to see Peyton Machado today. He got him a little run. It was good to see his mobility. But obviously he couldn't because Tyler Van Dyke couldn't because he didn't dress out. But I will say this tonight, just watching tonight, Nkosi didn't look great to me, man. I thought Nkosi was going to come in. He came in right off the bat, threw the pass to Cheney. But the word that comes to mind is clumsy. Like it just seems, he just seems clumsy. He did a great job where he evaded 2 guys, but then he hit the spin move again, and it just doesn't look like he's a veteran guy. But just talking about what I saw tonight, he didn't look like a veteran guy when he got in the game.
Right. Exactly. That's where I think the issue is because he's been here forever, but like I'm not automatically confident that he has a handle. Like you said, clumsy is a good word, where it looks awkward sometimes. Like there was something he did where he did like the fake handoff and then like he pulled it back to throw a pass, and he stood there with like this weird statue like and he just kind of like froze for a second. And I'm like, King would have already made a decision by now, and Cozy's just kind of standing there, like unsure of what's going on or where he wanted to go with it. I don't know. I don't see it. And like you said about the offense, he's had kind of a hard run because, like, I don't think anyone that saw him play against, like you said, the comeback and all that would think he's without talent. I think he's got a lot of talent. I think the changing offensive coordinators hurt him, like it hurt Stephen Morris, like it hurt Jacory, like it hurt Kyle Wright, like it hurt all these other dudes that had physical potential at the quarterback position for this team. I don't know what the best bet for him is. Honestly, if I would say that if we got a grad transfer, if King stays and Kosi leaves, I think dropping down a level to G5 and finding a starting job there where his physical talent can really carry him, I think he would have a shot at showing people, that he's legit. And I wouldn't mind seeing that too, because I'd be rooting for the kid pretty hard. I just don't know if it's going to happen for Miami.
Man, looking at the chat, the chat, everybody's chiming in on this. Robin says you're crazy. Peyton Machota. Miami Mike says, really? Kosi, come on, bro. He's the worst on the squad? The worst? It's time to admit it. Kosi is not good. Can we put the Perry talk to rest? Perry is a 50% passer at best. The chat's going crazy. So, what'd you think about Peyton Machota? I mean, according to the chat, they like to see Machota over Perry. So, we just got to see a little sample size. But did you take anything away? Did you take away anything from how he played or the little snaps he got?
No, not really. Not really. And part of that is, the offensive line. At that point, we had freshman walk-ons in there in the offensive line. So I don't know what you can gather from it because Duke still had a lot of their like ones in. I would like to see him do more, Peyton, because you never know what a kid could be. I don't think he's near in terms of physical talent where Van Dyke is or Perry for that matter. He might, have adjusted to the offense well, and his second year in the system and all that, but he didn't seem like you say clumsy for Kosi. I think you could pretty much put that on Peyton too. Probably better passer, and we didn't get a chance to see that obviously, really, but I don't think he's the answer long term either. I think he's a good guy to have as your third quarterback down the road when you get to the point where he's an upperclassman, but that's about it.
All right, man. Miami improves to 8-1 on the season. North Carolina up next, and then most likely a New Year's Six bowl game. Does Miami go 2-0 these next to end the season? What do you think? I mean, obviously we don't know who we play, but we assume we're going to play A&M or Florida. So, what are your thoughts? You think we're going 2-0, or what do you think?
I think that this North Carolina game is a very important game to see what we are. I think we win this game because I think it's a game that after what we did against Duke, kind of calming that played down to the competition thoughts that always float through your head when you're a Miami fan. I think we win that game, and then you worry about an upset with Georgia Tech, but now that we're not going to be allowed to play an ACC title game, if we get that Georgia Tech game in, which I'm not sure that we will, because they might just say, why play this game? Why even bother? I think that with the revenge aspect, like with the Duke game, I don't think we'll play down that competition. And then, you throw us in there with Florida or Texas A&M. I don't think Texas A&M is a great team. I don't think they're the number 5 team in the country by any stretch of the imagination. So I wouldn't mind playing them. I'd like to play Florida personally, just as like a measuring stick, because they lose a lot after this season. So even if they beat us close, it's real easy to say, well, they lose Trask and Pitts and all these guys. whereas we're only going to get better, I think, into the near future. And I really honestly, in my gut feel, Kings coming back. But I'd happily take on either of those schools, and either revenge on Jimbo or revenge on Florida. We'd get something, or at least a shot at it.
I like it. I like it, man. I think we match up well against both of those SEC teams. I don't see us playing that Georgia Tech game. I just think they're going to say, who cares? But we'll definitely. I think we're going to beat North Carolina, man. I have been on this high. I've been saying this. I just don't think North Carolina is a great team. I think they got a good offense, but I think our defensive line. And I look at, Florida State defensive line gave them some trouble. Virginia's defensive line gave them some trouble. And I watched a little bit of the Notre Dame game. But I think our D-line, man, I just got so much confidence in that front four that, man. And then, of course, we got De'Aaron King. So, all right, man. Chris, what do you got planned leading up to North Carolina week? Do we got some historic games against North Carolina? I mean, when I think about North Carolina, I think about old boy throwing down to you. I forgot his name, but it didn't fit well. But what are y'all going to be doing for Canes Insight, and what are they going to be doing on your Twitter page, man?
Well, definitely looking back to some things and tomorrow, make sure everybody that's listening, we'd appreciate you guys jumping on the Twitter account and watching some of the videos from this game. We're going to go through, like we always do, and pick out some of the big plays. We actually already posted up the Jalen Phillips highlights from tonight. There were so many plays that it was so easy to pick the plays out. So we got a bunch on there already. But make sure you check us out for that. And then the course of the week on Canes Insight, the mailbag we do. You can post questions on the Twitter account, on the website, and the forum for Canes Insight, wherever, and we'll be happy to answer your questions about Miami football.
All right, and guys, I do want to let people know to go and check out the Patreon page. What I'm doing on the Patreon page is tomorrow I'll have the full Duke game uploaded. I know a lot of times on YouTube and stuff you can't find the full game. I'm gonna put it on the Patreon squad so they don't take it off of YouTube. And then I'll be doing a couple film breakdowns on the Patreon squad. And then I'll be doing my my normal instant reactions and the podcast. All will be on the Patreon page. Also ad-free content. So, if you're rewatching this and you're getting ads, you can get signed up for the Patreon squad and you don't have to listen to any ads. So the link is in the description. Join the Kane Gang. Link in the description. Join the Patreon, and you're going to get a lot of exclusive content and ad-free content. Get signed up with that today. Shout out to my boy Chris, Kane's Legacy. Y'all go ahead and check him out on Twitter. He puts out amazing content, man. And I just want to give a shout out to everybody in the chat, man. I mean, we got over 100 people here. It's late. You guys can be anywhere on YouTube, but y'all are over here kicking it with your boy. And man, that honestly, I say this, y'all are like family. And this channel, it goes nowhere without you guys interacting in the comments and things like that. So from the bottom of my heart, I truly appreciate it. And definitely shout out to you, Chris, man, for coming on to the show, man. We definitely appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Grant. It's really easy when we win in all these games to come on and talk about it. So thank you to the Hurricanes for actually pulling out some big W's this season, so we could talk some good stuff.
Yes, sir. I'm going to sleep good tonight. It was a good victory, man. Shout out to you, Chris, and shout out to everybody in the chat, man. And I'll see y'all tomorrow with even more content, man. Thank you, guys.